Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here for the January 2026 session. My name is Siddharth. Today, we're going to look at something that is fundamentally changing our roles as product managers. We are now required to go from features to intelligence, and I will show you how AI is changing the shape of product strategy. First, let's understand why does this even matter and why now. For years, we focused on the what, the features, the buttons, the UI. But as AI becomes the core engine of our products, our strategy has to move deeper. It has to think about and move into the intelligence layer, the logic and the learning systems that drive those features. By the end of this talk, I want you to internalize that shift so that you can stop thinking like a feature builder and start thinking like a system strategist. So let's get right into it. To understand why we need to change, we first should look at the traditional product model. Now, for years, actually decades, product strategy has been built on a single massive assumption, which is predictability. Think about how we've always planned. We start with a static roadmap. It's a document that says in 6 months we will build this, in 9 months we will ship that. It feels safe because it gives us a sense of control. This leads to what I call as linear execution. It is a straight line from an idea to a requirement to code and finally to the user. Success in this world is very easy to measure because it's always very narrow. It is feature based, and that is what the limitation is. We basically celebrate when the feature is delivered, we check the box, we move the Jira ticket to done, and we tell all the stakeholders that we succeeded just because the output is live. But the essence of the problem here is that this model assumes that the world will stay still while we are building. It assumes that if we build feature X, we will always get result Y. Having led experimentation at scale, I can tell you that in the world of AI, that straight line between shipping a feature and achieving a result is officially broken. This traditional model is built for a world of static code, not for a world of evolving intelligence. So, why is this traditional predictable model actually breaking? There are few core reasons, but it all stems from one fundamental truth, which is AI systems learn from data. In traditional software, if you write a line of code, it does exactly the same thing every single time. It is static by nature. But an AI system is dynamic. Its behavior changes over time as it consumes more information, more data. This means that the essence of the product today might slightly be different tomorrow based on how the users are interacting with it. Because of this evolution, outputs are not fully predictable. You can no longer promise a stakeholder a specific 100% certain result 6 months out. And this is the hardest part for product leaders to accept. Planning cannot lock outcomes. Think of it like this. In the traditional model, let's say you're building a bridge. You have the blueprint, you know the materials, and you can predict exactly what the bridge will look like. In the AI model, you're planting a garden. You can choose the seeds in the soil, that is your product sense, but you can't force exactly how every leaf will grow. So you have to move from a mindset of controlling the build to managing the evolution. If you try to use a bridge builder's roadmap for a garden, you are going to fail. That's why the old way of locking in features doesn't just feel slow, it's actually incompatible with the technology we're using today. Now, once we realize the old model is broken, the next thing we have to internalize is that AI is more than a new feature. I see this mistake all the time. Teams are treating AI like it's a new widget or a slightly smarter chatbot they can just plug into their existing UI. But if you want to build a real product strategy, you have to see that AI influences decisions, not just the UI. Think of it as a strategic layer that sits beneath every part of your product. It's not just about what the user sees, it's about how the product thinks. It provides personalization at scale, something that we used to only dream of, and it fundamentally impacts experimentation and ranking. When AI is the engine, it's making thousands of micro decisions a second about what content to show or how to optimize a workflow. The essence here is that you aren't just adding a tool to the toolkit, you're actually changing the very DNA of the product. If you treat it like a feature, you will limit its potential. If you treat it like a strategic layer, you unlock a completely new way to deliver value. This brings us to what I call the shift. And it's the answer to a question I get asked constantly. How should product leaders rethink traditional roadmaps and prioritization in this new world? Think of it as moving from outputs to systems. In the old world, your roadmap was a list of outputs, shipping feature A, then feature B, then C. But now we are moving towards shaping system behavior. Instead of a roadmap of buttons to build, your roadmap becomes a series of learning goals. You aren't just delivering a static asset, you're moving from one time delivery to a model of continuous steering. Your prioritization isn't about which feature has the highest ROI, it is about which learning loop will make the system significantly more intelligent next month. This is a fundamental change in how we think about our to do lists, our roadmap, our yearly strategy. You aren't building a product anymore. You are coaching a system to work the way you want it to. So, when I say adaptive product system, what do I actually mean? It is really important to internalize that this is not another buzzword. It's a technical and strategic reality. Think of a traditional product like a tool. It stays the same until you manually upgrade it. But an adaptive system is more like an organism. It continuously reacts to user behavior. It doesn't wait for you to look at a dashboard, it learns from feedback loops in real time. And the essence here is that the system adjusts decisions automatically. For example, if a user needs a change or has a feedback at 2 p.m., the product should adapt by 2:01. And most importantly, the entire system improves through experimentation. It is constantly running micro tests, micro experiments on itself to see which path creates the most value. And this is the difference between building a static asset and building an engine that generates its own upgrades. You're moving from a world where you tell the product what to do to a world where you train the product how to learn. Now, if we have a system that is constantly learning, how do we manage it? The answer is that experimentation becomes the backbone. In the old model, experimentation was often just something we did at the end to see if a feature worked or not. In the AI model, it is how we make every single decision every day. This is how I think of it. Because AI is adaptive, I can't rely on intuition alone. Every decision must be validated through experiments. That in turn does two powerful things for me. First, it gives me faster iteration cycles. I'm not waiting for a massive quarterly release, I'm learning every day. Second, and this is the trick for leaders, it creates a much lower cost of being wrong. In a traditional roadmap, when let's say I spent 3 months building the wrong feature, that obviously was a disaster. But in an adaptive system, if an experiment fails, I will know within days. I will not waste months, instead, I will gain data. So, the essence here is that you're moving from betting on features to investing in evidence. It takes the pressure off being right and puts the focus on learning fast. To see what this looks like in the real world, we have to look at Netflix. Now, this is a product we all use, but have you ever thought about the sheer scale of experimentation happening under the hood? Netflix famously runs thousands of A/B experiments every single year. Think about that for a second. That is nearly 3 experiments every business day. This isn't just tweaking, this is a total validation of product decisions. They don't guess if a piece of artwork or an image from a movie works or if a recommendation algorithm is effective. They let the system prove it. The result is personalization of the experience at a level that is almost invisible because it's so good. No two people have the same experience on its platform. My Netflix looks different than yours because the system has adapted to my unique feedback loops. The essence here is that Netflix doesn't ship a product to millions of people, they ship a system that creates millions of individual products. And that is the goal of an intelligence driven strategy. Now, for the Netflix model to work, you have to change how you view data. You have to move analytics from being a reporting tool to being your decision infrastructure. Think about the difference. A reporting tool tells you what happened yesterday. Decision infrastructure tells the system what to do now. The essence of this infrastructure is that it separates signal from noise. In an AI driven product, AI driven world, we are drowning in data. If we don't have the right infrastructure, we will get parallelized. But with it, we enable confident decisions. It gives your teams the evidence they need to move fast. As a leader, here is my favorite part: it reduces opinion based debates. We've all been in those meetings where the person with the loudest voice or the highest title always wins. But if analytics is built into the infrastructure, the system provides the why, and the team can then focus on the how. Essentially, you're moving from I think to the evidence shows. Now, once you have the infrastructure in place, the biggest mistake you can make is measuring the new system with old metrics. We have to redefine what product success actually looks like in the world of AI. In the old world, we chased the click. If the CTR went up, we high fived. But in an intelligence driven world, a click can be a false signal. We have to prioritize long term engagement over clicks. Think about the essence of your relationship with the user. Are they coming back because the product is actually solving a problem, or because a model tricked them into a short term action? Success now lives in retention and trust. We are building for sustainable user value. If your AI optimizes for a short term win but burns user trust, you have not succeeded. You have actually created technical and brand debt. Finally, you need the resilience to optimization and algorithm changes. A successful product strategy is one where the value remains constant even when the model is being swapped out or retrained. You are not only building a feature that works today, you're building a system that is designed to stay successful even tomorrow, no matter how much the technology evolves. Until now, I painted a very optimistic picture, but we have to be realistic. This is where things can go sideways if you're not careful. The most common trap is that the AI optimizes the model but not the user. Now, let's think about that for a second. An algorithm is actually a math problem. If you tell the algorithm to increase the time spent on page, it will find the most efficient way to do that, even if it means showing users clickbait or content that actually makes them feel worse. The model is succeeding mathematically, but the product is failing the human. This is where proxy metrics hide long term harm. You might see your engagement numbers going up because there is more time spent on the app, and you think you're winning, while in reality, you're burning through user trust. These short term wins mask system degradation. It's like a house that looks beautiful on the outside but has a crumbling foundation. As a product leader, your product sense has to be tuned to see past the dashboard. You have to ask, are we growing because we are better or because we are tricking the system? If you don't catch this early, AI will eventually optimize your product into a corner that you can't get out of. To show you exactly how this failure looks in the real world, let's talk about Uber. A few years ago, Uber introduced highly sophisticated dynamic pricing algorithms. Mathematically, the goal was simple: balance supply and demand by adjusting fares in real time. On paper, the model was a success, it was efficient. But in reality, it actually harmed both drivers and passengers initially. The dynamic pricing led to higher fares for riders. The essence of the system broke because driver earnings actually declined after the new algorithm was introduced. The AI was optimizing for transaction efficiency, but it was ignoring the people who make the service possible. So, as a result, the trust, the fairness, and the ecosystem balance were all negatively impacted. Drivers and passengers felt cheated, long term health of the brand took a hit. This is a perfect example of what happens when you let an intelligence driven system run without a clear understanding of the human value it's supposed to serve. In this case, the model won the math, but the product lost the market. So, what is the overall essence of the lesson from the Uber example? It is a question of balance, and it is how we answer that second big question: what guardrails or decision principles help teams avoid optimizing algorithms at the expense of real user value? First and foremost, you have to understand metrics are not value. Metric is just a proxy. Value is the actual impact on a human's life. If your metric goes up but user value goes down, your metric is lying to you. Second, algorithms always need constraints. You can't just set a machine loose on a single metric. You have to give it boundaries. This is where guardrails protect the system. Think of it like a train. The engine provides the power, that's your AI. But the tracks are the guardrails that ensure it actually goes where it is supposed to. Finally, product judgment is necessary. There is this myth that AI will eventually replace product sense. It is actually the opposite. In an AI world, your judgment matters more than ever because you are the only one who can see the why behind the what. You have to be the one to step in and say, I don't care what the data says, this experience does not feel right for a long term strategy. Your job is to be the human conscience of the machine. Now, again, going back to the Uber example, you might ask, if the machine is making all these micro decisions, what is my job? Here is the answer. This is exactly where product leadership matters the most. Your job is to define what success means. You are the one who looks at the overall company goal and decides the direction of the ship. The machine is the engine, but you choose what gets optimized. If the system is leaning too hard into short term revenue at the expense of user trust, you are the only one who can set the boundaries and trade offs. You have to be the one who says, we will sacrifice 2% of conversion this month, ensure we don't lose 20% of our user trust next year. Finally, your role is to balance stakeholders. You have to translate all the technical AI complexity into a narrative that the business can understand. This is your job and a critical one because you are now also managing the values and the vision that the intelligence is built upon. To lead these systems, you have to change how your team works daily. You need to structure every decision for learning. This starts with having clear assumptions behind every decision. What that means is that before you run an experiment, ask, what exactly do we expect the AI to learn here? You need fast signals on what works and what doesn't. In an adaptive world, a slow signal is pretty much a dead signal. By building learning into everyday product work, you stop treating research as a separate phase. Instead, each experiment now helps you improve future decisions. So, the main goal here is moving from a culture of knowing to a culture of inquiring. You aren't just building a product, you're building a knowledge engine. Now, how does this change your Monday morning prioritization meeting? In an AI driven world, you have to choose improvements which have a system wide impact. Stop looking for isolated quick fixes. Instead, look for the data loops that lift the entire product's intelligence. You must be very, very explicit about trade offs. Every time you optimize for one thing, you might be deprioritizing another. That is okay as long as you name it. The goal here is to favor long term value over short term wins. A hack that might boost your numbers this week but might degrade your model quality in the next month is a bad trade. So, prioritization is no longer about what's easiest to build today, it is about what's most valuable for the system to learn in the longer run. Finally, we have to also look at our teams. To build intelligence driven products, you must transition from being feature oriented to system oriented. In the old world, a PM owned a feature, engineer wrote the code, data scientists looked at the results later. This doesn't work anymore. You need a cross-functional responsibility. You have to get product, data, and engineering aligned from day one. In an adaptive system, the code and the data are inseparable. This requires shared accountability. You aren't just responsible for your slice of the UI, the whole team is responsible for how the system learns and behaves. So, what do I want you to walk away with today? First, you have to accept that AI reshapes product strategy as we know it. It is not an add on, it is a total shift in the blueprint. Second, adaptive systems outperform features. If you're still focusing on static outputs, you're already falling behind the learning curve. Remember, experimentation drives learning. That is the engine. But never forget that leadership defines outcomes. That machine provides the power, but you provide the direction and the value. If you can bridge the gap between algorithmic speed and human judgment, you won't just be building features, you'll be building the future of intelligent products. Thank you. That is all I had for today. I hope you enjoyed the presentation.